So this dough has been resting for about 5 hours now, and I just divided it into 200-gram balls. I've got the camera propped up, so hopefully this will work. But the dough feels really nice. It's a little bit sticky and soft, but at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it out into kind of like a pancake shape, so you can see that a little bit better. And I'm going to fold the edges under. And what this does is, because the gluten is already developed, it'll help trap air, and that when the air gets pushed out into the rim later, you'll get those nice big voids in the rim. And so that's how I do it. I don't know how other people do it, but all I'm doing is I'm tucking the edges under, and see already there you can see that. See how there's a bubble there? That's that air that's being trapped. Okay, and I'm just tucking it under. And because this dough is so wet and moist, it'll tolerate some extra folds that I'm doing here. If you have a particularly dry dough, it's not going to tolerate it too well. And so I'm going to pinch, because what you're doing when you fold the dough like that, when you stretch and fold, is you're creating gluten, and it'll toughen up the gluten structure. But if you don't over knead it and you have a fairly wet dough, then you can do that and it'll tolerate it just fine. But if you have a fairly dry dough and you've kneaded it really well already, you can't really add too many of these folds, because it'll make it the crumb structure really tough afterwards. Again, this dough was only kneaded for maybe, I don't know, 4 minutes max, and it's been resting for about 4 or 5 hours now. All I'm doing is just balling it up, but I'm throwing in a few extra folds. See there? Looks nice and smooth. Here, we'll do one more. Okay, stretching it out like that. See how wet and slack that dough is? I'm going to fold it a couple times here and there. I can't really see what I'm doing on camera because I have the cell phone propped up. I'm just tucking the dough onto itself here and pinching the back end of it. See that? Nice little, get some of those bubbles in there, and later when we go to stretch the dough out, they'll show up in the rim. Right now the gluten's already formed, and so it'll hold those bubbles. If you try to do the stretch and fold too soon in the process and the gluten hasn't really set up yet, the dough seems to absorb it, and you don't get those. See, the dough's got a little bit more strength to it now just from folding it a few times. You don't want to do it put too many folds in there, because it'll make the dough tough to open later. So if you're having trouble opening up your dough, it's one of several reasons. Either you've got too much gluten developed in the dough, and that's from either over kneading the dough or having a hydration that is relatively low. Okay?
Daddy.
Hold on, baby.
Daddy.
Yeah?
I was awake.
Okay, we'll go get her, okay? Okay, so we have about 6 dough balls here that we're going to let rest for another 6 hours or so, and then we'll bake up.